got the person tested, the HIDDEN, then got them following a system that would pretty much treat every cell, every tissue, every organ, every system simultaneously. Guess what happened? People that had given up trying to have a baby got pregnant.
Welcome to Get Pregnant Naturally, where functional medicine and natural fertility solutions will help you get pregnant and have your baby. Hey everyone, my name is Sarah Clark, and my mission is to inspire, motivate, and empower you. Most of all, I want you to wake up. So with functional medicine, we can discover what causes infertility and eventually reverse the condition. Today, I'm welcoming Reed Davis to the podcast, and we're digging into metabolic chaos and what it means for fertility. So Reed is a certified nutritional therapist, fitness trainer, and environmental paralegal. He's an expert in functional lab testing and holistic lifestyle medicine, and the founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, FDN, certification course. Reed served as a health director and case manager at the Better Health and Wellness Center in Poway, California for over 10 years, and now teaches the FDN course with over 2,500 trainees or graduates in 50 countries. He is a clinical advisor at BioHealth Laboratory, helping practitioners interpret lab test results and develop natural protocols to restore function rather than just treating symptoms. Reed is known as one of the most successful and experienced clinicians in the world today, having provided functional lab assessments to over 10,000 clients for hormonal and bone density problems, adrenal, thyroid dysfunction, and digestion, detoxification, and immune system issues. He is also an expert in pathogen screening and food sensitivity testing and many related health problems. Reed lives in Southern California, teaching the FDN certification course and helping his graduates build robust private practices. Check out his website at functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com. And before we jump into today's show, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this to make sure you never miss an episode. Hey, Reed, excited to have you on the podcast.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
it's
awesome.
a real pleasure to be here.
Great. So if you could share your journey with us and how you came to do this work.
Well, thanks a million again. And it's such an amazing world and life and work to be doing. And it's kind of your passion and your dreams come true when you're helping others. I actually started out about 20 years ago. At that point, I was still in the environmental law field. So I'd been studying what the environment was doing to the birds and trees and water and air. And we were cleaning up the planet. That was my job, clean up the planet. And that was fantastic and amazing for as long as I was doing it. And then I had this really good job and things just didn't work out at the employment where I was employed. So I started looking for another thing to do that would also be helpful and do gooder work. So I decided to start a corporate wellness company back in the late 1998, 99 time period. And corporate wellness wasn't being done then. Everyone knows what it is now, but back then it wasn't. And I ran into my son's chiropractor, a beautiful Leilani Vidal. She had this nice wellness clinic. And I decided that I needed chiropractic to be part of my wellness program for my wellness technology group so I could do corporate wellness. And what happened when I met her, I just got turned on to the clinical side. So I decided I didn't want to do the corporate work anymore. I just wanted to work really one-on-one with people. So I started in her office. She was taking a course in clinical nutrition, a diplomat course. I went with her. She said I could go. And anyway, I started working there full-time at a wellness center over 20 years ago. And I became the case manager, the health director, basically the general manager. And, the rest is sort of history, but that's how I got started. I started going from environmental law to corporate wellness into the clinical side. And I fell in love with working with people one-on-one. And I can tell you how I developed what I do now from that starting point. But that was what got me started, just falling in love with working with people instead of just the air and water. And what was the environment doing to us, including me, and everyone walking in the clinic.
Awesome. Yeah, it's the same thing for me. Well, I was in HR for years and then, yeah, love people. And now it's sort of, helping people with, my struggle with infertility and helping other people that are struggling as well. So yeah, definitely it's all about the people. And I think I've heard that you work with a lot of women with hormonal issues.
Yeah, well, what I started out doing was bone density testing. So I just, I was working at the clinic, and they weren't open every day. So on the off days, I bought a bone density testing machine. I went around. I had over 20 locations where I would go and do this bone density testing. And I became an expert in bone density. Now, by the way, this was in the same time period when the Women's Health Initiative study, which is a part of a huge government study on hormones and including bone density and all different related things. And so what basically happened was they stopped recommending synthetic hormones, and people didn't know what to do. So doctors, the study said that, hey, these artificial hormones we've been giving you for years and years were so dangerous, they were causing so many problems that they just stopped the study. It was an 8-year study, and they stopped it after 5 years, saying, look, people are getting sick on this stuff. And they didn't even finish the study. Now, by the way, some of those hormones did help with bones, but they just weren't good for you otherwise. And so I was right in the middle of that, right in the thick of that, doing my bone density testing. Really, twice a week, I was out at grocery stores and different locations and meeting women, because who else is going to get their bone density tested? It was women from 40 to about 65 years old, and they're wanting to do prevention, or they're wanting to do everything. So, it's no surprise to anybody that hormones are really highly involved. So I started running hormone tests, saliva testing. That's something I could easily hand out to women, was a hormone test, a little test kit. They could collect their saliva, and they could go ahead and send the saliva in. I would know what's going on with their hormones. And so that's kind of how I got started in that.
Yeah. So as far as the hormone testing, what did you discover that when you were handing those kits out to ladies in the supermarket?
Aha. Well, remember, so I'm doing this bone density testing, and I'm trying to just recommend that they, live their life better and, clean up their diet. And I started actually studying what really is going to change the bone density. And it wasn't just the hormones. I mean, the hormones were really important. We know that estrogen actually slows down bone loss. So you want healthy estrogen levels. Not only that, but progesterone, which is the counter hormone to estrogen, basically in most women, actually promotes bone loss, bone growth. So estrogen slows down the loss, and progesterone increases growth. It would be a really good thing then to have those in balance. And so one other thing came into the picture, though. When I started doing the hormone testing, I wasn't testing just their estrogen and progesterone. We were doing a complete saliva stress hormone profile. So we're looking at cortisol and their DHEA levels and some other hormones like testosterone, which is also good for the bones. And so what I found is that the stress hormone, cortisol, really slows down bone improvement and actually will stop it and actually reverse it. So too much stress, the stress hormone cortisol actually suppresses bone density. And guess what? A lot of people are on synthetic cortisol, cortisone, and they take asthma inhalers or they use skin creams. Mm-hmm. And these people have really weak bones, some of them. I just discovered so many things around bone density and hormones. And then I discovered that over the years, in a long period of time, that the same people getting their bones tested had other problems. They were tired, they were fatigued, they were overweight, they had sinuses and allergies, moodiness, irritability, digestive problems, immune system problems, and so on and on and on and on. So I just I'm not saying I became an expert in everything, but I did become an expert in functional lab testing. So that's really how I've sort of made my career over the last 20 years, and why I now teach a course in functional lab testing. That's what I do for a living now. So I went from 20 years ago being a clinician in an office. I recruited a lot of clients by being out in the field doing bone density testing, starting with the hormone testing. And then I started running the other tests to find out, well, what else can we look at here that would give us some insights that would be useful? So we started testing, the hormones, of course, but the immune system and digestion and detoxification and a couple other things. So I've sort of called together this little group of tests that I like to run on everybody that solves or helps to solve just about every problem, because we're looking at underlying causes and conditions. Instead of just like treating symptoms, we actually help people fix themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the cornerstone of we have a 6-month program, and it includes functional testing. So food sensitivity, the Dutch, and GI maps are really, test, don't guess. And so a lot of people that come to us, so they're struggling with either premature ovarian failure, because that's my story, low or diminished ovarian reserve, unexplained infertility, fibroids, but typically, those sorts of diagnoses. The diagnosis can be all consuming and they get stuck on it. Whereas, in functional medicine, we look at the whole person. So how do we move away from, treating the diagnosis and stopping to chase the symptoms?
Yeah. Well, awareness, of course, that the symptom isn't the problem. It's the result of the problem. And this is even more interesting. I think that we've well established that the symptom isn't the problem. You can chase that away. There's lots of lotions, potions, powders, and pills, and therapies and modalities, and everybody's got a solution for your symptoms. But if you don't want the symptom to come back, or just change into another pattern, different symptoms appear, then you have to get to the underlying causes and conditions. The problem with that is that they can be really far removed. So we intuitively know now that symptoms aren't the problem. Don't just chase symptoms. People have been saying that for, I think I was one of the first ones to say it 20 some years ago. Don't chase the symptoms. And then everyone wants to run lab work now. Well, we pioneered this, and I love lab work. But most practitioners today are still just treating the paper. So there's treating the symptom, which is good, but it's the least effective in the long term. Then there's treating the paper, which is sort of also very deceptive. Good example would be thyroid. Oh, your thyroid's low. Yep. Found your problem. It's low thyroid. Here's your thyroid hormone, or here's something to help your thyroid out. That doesn't look for the underlying. That's not looking for the underlying cause or condition either. That's just treating the paper. So there's treating the symptom. There's treating the paper. In other words, just trying to get the numbers to change. And then there's really doing the hard work of investigation. What are the underlying causes and conditions? And that's, like you said, test, but don't guess. Yeah, don't guess, test. Well, people have different approaches to that. We've found that there are some basic tests, again, hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, nervous system. There's a handful of fairly simple tests to do, some saliva, urine, blood, and stool, that would give you some insights about what's really wrong with a person. And so intuitive, we know, don't chase symptoms. But what's not so intuitive, and you know this, Sarah, but some of the listeners may not, what's not so intuitive, that people with the exact same symptoms could have completely different causal factors. In other words, we're all so unique. There's just this idea that, there's all these stressors and influences on the body. Everybody's different metabolic weaknesses and things like that. And you could have the same stressors with different symptoms, or you could have different symptoms, or pardon me, the same symptom with different stressors. So there's, without a system, without a step-by-step system of figuring it out, this is what we do is, we kind of call ourselves the health detectives. We use a system of rooting it out. And, I think some of my acronyms, which make it really easy to remember. The first acronym is HIDDEN, HIDDEN, hidden. So a lot of these stressors and dysfunctions are hidden. HIDDEN stands for hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous system. And when I say nervous system, I'm just talking about the autonomic balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic. And so the hidden stressors and dysfunctions, we have lab work or just investigative tools to look into what are they. And then we have our protocols. And, those are all the lifestyle things.
Yeah, and I guess people kind of sometimes, can get caught up with just the lab test. I'm just going to do the lab test and that's it. Well, really, that's just the beginning of them making all the changes. And that just gives us a roadmap for now as to where to go instead of just loading up with supplements or doing other things. So it gives us a targeted action plan. But
no, ask your next question because you're totally on the right track.
Yeah. And I guess, so people come to us and we're like, let's back this thing up, because a lot of people that have come, they're not coming, to functional medicine as the first thing. They're coming to it as the last thing. They've been through, years of failed cycles, repeat miscarriage, failed IUIs, failed IVF. So they could be in a very kind of dark place emotionally and feeling, this is the last hope, and kind of, I'll look at some natural solutions. So when we say, let's back this thing up for 6 months and really focus on your preconception health, because it's really important for the postpartum period and the health of your child, like what would you say to someone like that?
Well, there's a lot to say, and just like, again, so infertility is a symptom. It's not the problem, it's where you feel it. The problem could be multifactorial, multi-causal, and multi-dysfunctional. Let me give you a really quick story. This has happened many, many, many times over the years. This is not a unique situation. I've had people and they give me their diagnoses. Like you said, the last thing they need from me is another diagnosis. A lot of people already have 4 or 5. What frustrated me the most when I first started was that people coming in the office, Sarah, had already been to 5 or 8 practitioners or more. And it just me being new and naive, I just thought that was weird. Like, well, what do you mean you've been to 5 or 8 people? Why didn't the first one fix it, or the second one? That's because they weren't looking for underlying causes and conditions and lots of other things ongoing. But I decided back then I wanted to be the last person that they needed to see. That's why I came up with ignore the symptom, ignore the diagnosis. Not completely. You have to know what's going on with the person. But, let's just find out what are the things dysfunctioning in the body, work on those, and see what shakes out. Just kind of trust that every cell in your body knows what its job is. It doesn't need to be trained what to do. The cells have an intelligence within them. That means every tissue has an intelligence. Every organ has an intelligence. Every system in your body has an intelligence. It knows what to do and it wants to be healthy. So we have to start there. And then we can start doing some of this investigation as to what's out of whack, more or less. And so, again, we've said it many times, don't treat the symptom. And if that's infertility, it's hard to get them to forget, because that's what they want the most. People are pretty much would do anything to have a baby. And I have 4 kids. I totally get it, right? So, I want you to have a baby too. But here's what we noticed. When we kind of set that aside, whatever the diagnosis was, then got the person tested, HIDDEN, then got them following a system that would pretty much treat every cell, every tissue, every organ, every system simultaneously. Don't treat anything specifically. Treat the whole person. Treat everything non-specifically. Guess what happened? People that had given up trying to have a baby got pregnant. I mean, I can remember distinctly, this is many more times than once, but in particular, I got a call from a client and her husband. They were together in the car driving. They were just coming from the hospital or doctor's office, or whatever, and they go, Reed, guess what? We're we're pregnant. I go, well, congratulations. Like, like, thanks for the call. They go, no, you don't understand. This is your fault. I go, my fault? Well, what are you talking about? I go, well, this is something I didn't even know about them. They had given up trying to get pregnant years ago. They've been married for 9 years, had completely given up, and were actually coming to me for a different problem. It was the woman was my client. Her husband was her support person, obviously. So, we all knew each other really well. So she was coming to me for a different problem. Never even mentioned that she had an infertility issue. And all of a sudden, because of we just sort of whatever she came to me for, it wasn't that. I think it was overweight and tired and fatigued and moody and irritable and and whatever. So okay, we're going to set that aside and then just work on. You know what it was? We had cleaned her up. We got her diet cleaned up. We got her inflammation down. We got her immune system cleaned up. We got rid of some parasites and some fungal overgrowth and things like that. Her digestion was turning around. It was, much better. She was actually now breaking down and absorbing the food that she was eating. She'd been eating good food, but wasn't doing that. We got her detoxification systems cleaned up, like her liver started working better, kidneys. There's the colon, the lymph system, the lungs. The skin is a detoxifier, on and on. We know all these things. All we did was clean her up for 6 months. And all of a sudden she was pregnant and had given up trying. So, that's why, believe it or not, people come to me and they say, well, my main complaint is infertility. Remember, we set complaints aside, right? That's just the symptom. Let's get you cleaned up. What I actually now have to tell people is, well, let's stop treating that. Let's stop trying to get pregnant and let's just clean you up. And we've even had people who actually started using birth control after a few months because they were able to get pregnant but weren't cleaned up enough. So because what happens is when you get pregnant, it kind of puts the brakes on some of the things we might be doing. So even though pregnancy is what you want the most, why don't you take a year off from trying, really get yourself cleaned up and ready to conceive and produce go full term with a really healthy baby? Because, if I go back to that story, I don't think it was, had I known that was an issue and it just didn't come up, it was part of the learning process, I would have had him do birth control for at least another 3 to 6 months. Just using condoms or something to not talking about something that's going to screw up your body, like some of the birth control methods out there. But just let's just not do that right now. It's hard to tell people when that's all they've ever wanted, but
that's right.
It's the truth. You have to be honest.
Yeah, and if you've got something going on in your system, then the postpartum period can be, with postpartum depression and anxiety, and then the health of your children. So I didn't focus on my preconception health. I had premature ovarian failure. I had both my children with donor eggs. And then, off I went. I was lucky enough to have them on the first fresh transfer for both. And then both of them have these food allergies, which you wouldn't know are food allergies, but, asthma and ear infections and, acne, all those sort of things. And then, but because I didn't focus on that, they struggle with these things and keeping teenagers off of dairy and gluten. Well, that's always fun.
Yeah.
So it is to kind of back it up a little bit and take that time to really focus on your health.
Yeah, it's really quite remarkable what might shake out. Again, there are these weak links in metabolism that are completely individualized. And we call them vital voids. So we're not all the same. Some people can break down and absorb gluten, for instance, like grains. Other people, it's not going to happen. Just they're genetically programmed differently. So that's a weak link for us, or a vital void. Other vital voids people come to us with are like surgically removed parts. Like people don't have gallbladders. That's a void. That's like you're not going to get proper breakdown of fat if you don't have a gallbladder because you can't store bile and the whole story. So people have different vital voids, weak links, and that's why you need really a step-by-step system of investigation into what's wrong, what's really wrong, or at least, can we identify some healing opportunities? That's a word to jot down, folks, is healing opportunities. That's what we look for. What needs repair, rebuilding, restore, or restoration. We want to return it to normal function. And so we can identify a few things. And then you got to get to work and do the work. Like if you're gluten intolerant, don't eat any. Like don't eat any. And full stop. People who say, well, I only eat it once a week, that'd be like saying, Las Vegas only gets shot up once a week. If you think about, remember the tragedy in Las Vegas last year when some whack job shot 50 people or something out of a hotel window. Yeah. And, it only happened once. But if it happened every week, nobody would go to Vegas. And that's the way you need to look at wheat. If you're sensitive to it, well, I only eat it once. That'd be like saying, well, they only shoot up 50 people once a week in Las Vegas, so I'm still going there. And that would be pretty insane. So eating, if you're sensitive to gluten, you can't say, well, I only eat it once a week. You have to say, I don't eat it anymore.
Yeah, so I say gluten light. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, gluten light.
Gluten light just doesn't work.
Not if you're truly sensitive to it. And you could also have cross reactivities. It'd be other things. That's why we run the labs.
And as far as metabolic chaos, can you dig into that for us? What is that?
That's it's a term. I kind of coined that. And metabolic chaos describes the state that exists when one's weak links, and again, we're all kind of individual and have our different ones. Something within a cell, tissue, organ, or system isn't quite working right. It's dysfunctional to some degree, and you have a lot of them. Now, that potential is up against a very underappreciated environment. I remember my background was environmental law, and my job used to be, let's clean up the planet. What's this doing to our air and water and birds and trees and vernal pools and whatever. So then I turned my attention to what is it doing to people? It's not good. A friend of mine's Dr. Russell Jaffe. He's a pretty famous guy for his work in the field of developing lab work and supplements and detoxification plans and things. He said, we're marinating in a toxic soup. That's what the human condition is. There are tens of thousands of chemicals in the environment that have never been tested. Well, we're the test. We're the rats in the maze being tested. And what we're finding out, month after month, year after year, is that it's not a good or pretty picture. It's really breaking us down. So when you say, what's metabolic chaos? I say, well, it's us as individuals with our unique weak links in metabolism up against an underappreciated but very toxic environment. And that goes from the air you breathe to the, just driving to the store, you breathe in fumes. You walk into a store or restaurant or anywhere, you're breathing, outgassing of whatever it is. You know what? I'll just tell you right now. Yesterday, I have a guest house, and I've been, fixing it up a bit. Got some guests coming next month. And I went yesterday to Home Depot, and I bought a rug, just a 8x10 rug to put in this guest house thing. You know what I'm doing with it right now? It's hanging over the railing. I'm going to leave it outside for a week. Why? Because it smells like chemicals. And I'm not going to put that in the floor of my guest house, and my guests come and breathe that stuff and go, "What's that smell?" or anything like that. I don't care if it gets rained on, whatever. I'll clean it. Like zero res cleaning. But you know what I'm trying to say is, like, you have to outgas these things. You got to think about the environment. It's ubiquitous. These chemicals are everywhere, including our food. That's why we eat organic, right? Organic food doesn't have a lot of extra nutrition in it. It just has less pesticides and herbicides and fungicides and whatever. That's why we eat organic. It's what you don't get, the little gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Food is, yeah. So, and then what do we do about that nutrition that's missing from food? Well, yeah, take supplements. And I don't have my own brand, but I really believe in supplements a lot.
Mhm.
It's part of our Dress for Health Success program.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll talk about the dress in a little bit, but how about as far as the HPA axis and why that would be important for our hormones, fertility?
Yeah. Well, that's our flagship test. We use saliva. You use the Dutch, which is a dried urine. The saliva just has a better track record. It's been around for 30 years, and there's like at least 300 research papers on saliva testing. So, in what I do, I kind of go with the stuff now. Some of the newer things I like. I see what they're trying to do, but I'm looking for third-party validation. It's just kind of critical because I'm in the education business. I kind of have to do that. But so we look at the cortisol and DHA ratio. We look at estradiol, progesterone, testosterone, melatonin. So we're looking at the adrenals. But the adrenals, we know, are just kind of being dictated to by the hypothalamus and pituitary up in the brain. And even those have their influencers. There's little other little sensors and lots of input that goes into the hypothalamus, pituitary. They're the two organs considered the thermostat or the master glands. They control the adrenals, which produces your cortisol and your DHA. Now, your cortisol and DHA are your catabolic and anabolic main hormones. So, cortisol is your stress hormone. If that's high, you're going to be breaking your body down. You're going to be suppressing your immune system. You're going to be, destroying your bones. There's lots of reasons why you don't want to be in cortisol dominance. You want to have lots of DHA. That's also made in the adrenals. And so we look at the hypothalamus pituitary because they're the control mechanisms for the adrenals. Now, I said cortisol is your main stress hormone. DHEA is your main anabolic. That's the hormone that's going to build you up. But it's also the parent of hormones. So testosterone and estrogen, which are obviously highly involved in mating and fertility, you need those. And so we look at the whole thing, we don't just measure your hormones in the bloodstream and go, oh, here's some hormone therapy. And we're looking for what's really wrong. And what we find out by looking at HPA Axis is how much stress you're under. And we start sorting out where's the stress coming from. I said it's our flagship test. It's not the only test. We look at the other things that influence the hypothalamus and pituitary, the autonomic nervous system, toxins. You got other hormones. You've got just all kinds of influences there, including the immune system. So you really have to test it all. And when you mention HPA or hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, you can't really ignore the HPT and the HP gonadal axis. So these are the hypothalamus pituitary works the same way as controlling sort of thermostatic mechanisms for the thyroid and also for the gonads, which in women would be the ovaries and men the testes. So we have the hypothalamus pituitary ovarian axis, the hypothalamus pituitary thyroid axis, and the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, and you really need to look at all three. So, but it's very easy. Again, a flagship test, easy way to start is with the HPA. Look at that. You're getting a look at stress, the stress hormone imbalances. We call it cortisol dominance, or actually you could call it catabolic. Body's breaking down from stress. Well, that's going to throw everything off. Ask anybody nowadays, right? Does stress throw your hormones off? Heck yes. Could that fertility? Heck yes. And we look at the other things that influence that HPA or HPT or HPG axis. And, you get a pretty good idea what a person can do to fix it.
Yeah, and a lot of time with the low ovarian reserve, they'll recommend DHEA without testing to see what's going on. What's your take on that?
Oh, yeah, people take all kinds of things that I wouldn't do without testing first. It just, to me, doesn't seem right.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's because I started working in a clinic with doctors who, are very careful. And, the first rule of medicine is do no harm. That's a pretty good place to start. Don't make the person worse if you can help it, right? So now we take it, I think, a step further, even more sort of gentle, like just what are the healing opportunities, and then how do we capitalize on those observations?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the DRESS program comes in. So the observations we make are not things like, oh, you've got cancer, or you've got Ebola virus, or you have, a bone sticking out of the arm bleeding. Those are emergency situations. Those are a place to go see a physician and get attendant care. Go get the acute care. When people come to us, they're not coming for those things. They're coming for these long-term chronic stress-related conditions that are going to, where the observations we make, we've got time to capitalize on those observations. In other words, give people things to do. In other words, they're not dying just yet. They just are really uncomfortable or dysfunctional, unhappy. They're unhappy. And so, but again, the testing we do, there's time to work on those things.
Yeah, and I guess we talked about this.
Why, yeah.
So go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we talked about
Well, that's why, okay, your turn.
Yeah, we talked about a little bit about not treating the paper and people getting caught up on these tests, and that's why FDN is a little different. Where that's part of it, but it's not the be all and end all. And people think sometimes, like I've been gluten-free and dairy-free and, for years, but I remember then I found a gut infection only, a couple of years ago. And I remember getting a food sensitivity test that I'd taken just, a couple of years ago. And it was a whole bunch of stuff on there. And I'm like super dedicated. I really wanted to get that when I got that test back. I just wanted to throw it over my shoulder and give up because it was so frustrating.
Yeah.
But some people get some of these tests and they can be super overwhelming, or they don't know where to start, or it's like, oh, here's all this data. Well, now I got to do the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to do the work. And that's where we help people. So we have pretty much a 3-step process. One is to find out what's wrong. So I like running the labs and taking history, and if a physical exam is possible, it's not always, because we do distance work, a lot of telemedicine and distance coaching, we call it. But you got to get a good intake. So our onboarding process is very thorough. And, we're going to get some saliva, urine, blood, and stool from every person, questionnaires, and lots of good intake stuff. So try to figure out, what are the healing opportunities? What's wrong? What needs fixing? What's out of balance? What have you? Then step 2 is to design a program that affects every tissue, every organ, every cell, every system in your body simultaneously. So it's called NonSpecific Treatment. What do I mean by that? Well, if you get a good night's sleep, does that treat any particular condition? No, it treats every cell in your body. Every tissue, every organ, every system benefits from a good night's sleep. Now I can break it down as, well, how does it affect the brain? How does it affect your digestion? How does it affect detoxification? How does it affect the immune system? I can break it down to those things, but the fact is, a good night's sleep treats all of it, treats every cell. Now, the same thing with eating right. The same thing with exercise, the same thing with reducing stress in all the ways that could be identified. It's a little more specific there. Same thing with supplements. There are general supplements like vitamins and minerals. There's essential fatty acids and amino acids and phytonutrients. And then there's some things that are a little more specific, like you could boost the immune system, you could increase digestion. So we got this dress system.
Mhm.
And, so we would sort of, step one, figure out what's wrong. Step two, design a program to fix it. That's the easy part. That's the part people don't have, that no one else is providing hardly, except people like you and me. But that's the easy part. The next part is the transformational process. Now what do I do? Well, you heal. You follow the program. You eat right. You go to bed. You exercise. You reduce stress in every way it can be identified. You treat any pathogens that might be around, viruses and parasites and bacteria and funguses. You get rid of that. You break down biofilm, get rid of it, while the body's healing. And so step three is kind of the hardest one. Now, it's what you were just saying, doing the program. Well, someone's actually got to do it.
Yeah. And you have there's
we,
there's that FDA assessment to kind of say, okay, wait, this is where I am now, and then as I go through the program, sometimes we don't know the changes that we've made along the way, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, maybe before I was sleeping 7 hours a night. I've had people that are getting up 5 and 6 times a night to urinate, and now they're down to one time a night. So sleep hygiene, working with people for months on that is huge. But it may seem sometimes when we achieve it, it's like, oh, it's no big deal. But how does that assessment work to help people track their progress?
Well, there's the initial intake in some of the forms. I think you might be referring to. Excuse me. We call it the Metabolic Chaos scorecard now.
Yeah.
So the ASI, we now call the Metabolic Chaos scorecard. So we track from that people's responses to questions. They're kind of little reminders, and ways to sort of search through all your symptoms and history and things. So you come up with this score. You might have 500 points. Well, the goal would be 0 points. I don't want any symptoms, and there's other things in there that are more objective, including the lab results. That's all very objective. So you have your assessment, but the ASI or Metabolic Chaos scorecard, something you could do every month and see if your points are going down.
Yeah, because it'd be encouraging.
Now, generally it would be. Everyone knows within 3 weeks if they feel better, if they're headed in the right direction. There's, remember I said step one is assessment. We run our labs, find out what's wrong. Step two is design the corrective program, the dress program. Then step three is to run the program. So, it's the person has to do it. Now they get guidance and counseling and, course correction and things, but you got to, a sailboat doesn't move if there's no wind in the sails. So you can't, it's just going to kind of just sit there. So you've got to get some wind in the sails. You've got to get some movement forward. Now you can start to, correct course. I don't know if you've ever sailed, but once the boat's moving, doesn't matter what direction, just get it moving. Now you can get the rudder, and you twist, and then you can set the sails. You can trim the sails. You can tack. You can come about. You can use zigzag. And you get there. That's what a good coach would help you do. And so there's 3 phases to the third step. So you assess, you design the dress program, then you run the program, which starts off with relief care. Relief is like, well, if you have migraines, they should go away. If you have diarrhea, that should stop. That's the relief phase. Okay, you got rid of the main overt symptoms. Step 2 is correction. You want to heal the hormones, the immune system, digestion, detoxification, and so on. And that's where we work with a person. And then step 3 is maintenance, and they do that themselves. If you feed a person to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. So we teach. Here's relief. You get relief, we get correction going, and then people know how to live.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so as far as dress, then can you just run us through what the acronym, what it stands for again, the different
Yeah, again, I like acronyms because it helps me remember. But the investigation is HIDDEN,
Mhm.
and the protocol is the DRESS, which stands for D diet, and we use mostly metabolic typing minus food sensitivities. So you got to run that food sensitivities test, and get people eating as close to their own particular ancestral diet as possible through metabolic typing. So D diet, R is rest, which really is sleep, but I had enough S's in there already.
Mhm.
So DRE says diet rest. You better rest your body and rest your brain, rest your all your systems, rest your cells, tissues, organs, and systems. Rest is critical. It's so restorative and healing. And I've studied sleep thoroughly. I mean, really, really well. I can tell you amazing things. Just do a whole show just on sleep. Um, so diet, rest, then exercise, and we don't need to belabor that. You can't be healthy if you don't exercise. Then there's two S's. The first one is stress reduction. That's the biggest area because
Mhm.
there's so many different types of stress. It's basically any influence that causes distress and dysfunction. It's not just stress, it's distress. So it's the bad kind of stress, not the good kind. So we look at all the different possible stressors, like that environment we talked about, bacteria, food sensitivities, and all kinds of things, even mental, emotional, and
Mhm.
physical trauma. Built up damage to your body, like I have from motorcycle and sports injuries and
Mhm.
things.
Yeah, structural.
So
Yeah.
diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and then supplements. And I don't have my own brand. I've been told many, many times I should, but I don't want to. I just want to know. I know a lot about them, and there's lots of different good stuff out there. And so, I teach the use of a certain couple product lines, but it doesn't matter to me as long as you're getting good stuff. I don't care where people buy things; they don't have to buy it from me.
Yeah, and we
So
seem to
that's DRESS.
stress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, we seem
Hmm.
to attract a lot of medical people that are trying to have babies, nurses, doctors, people
Yeah.
yeah, I think because of the testing, they're attracted to that kind of that targeted sort of science backed approach, and then so they may feel more typically comfortable taking supplements, and a lot of people are like, I remember someone saying, I was talking about food sensitivity, and they're like, is there a pill for that? Well, no. So sometimes people get caught up on the supplement piece and just doing that, whereas all the other, like the mindfulness, the looking at your sleep hygiene, looking at the right exercise for your body, they all matter. It's just doing it in a targeted manner. What's your take on that?
Well, there's different reasons to use supplements. If everyone just right now looked at their left hand and started with their thumb and labeled that D, and then R for the next finger, then ESS. So label your 5 fingers DRESS, and look at what the last S, which would be your pinky finger, if you're using your left hand, would be the supplements. So look at what you're only looking at 1/5 of the program. You're looking
Mm-hmm.
at about 20% of the program is the supplements. The thumb is your D. Again, you're using your left hand. Label your fingers DRESS. The diet is huge. The the R rest is huge. The E exercise is huge. Then you got the stress reduction. And then finally you got supplements.
Mm-hmm.
So if all you want to do is take supplements, you're leaving out the other 80% of the program, and it's not going to work very much. I'm not saying they aren't good for you. I'm not saying you shouldn't take them, but they have to be taken in context and in relative to doing the other things right. So, but when we look at supplements, we look at the 3 or 4 main things they do. One is they substitute for what's missing from food. We mentioned that organic food's good because of what it doesn't have, which is herbicides and pesticides. But it's not that much more nutritious. So I think you need extra vitamins and minerals and essential fatty acids and some phytonutrients from supplements just to substitute for what's missing. from modern food. It just doesn't have good stuff in it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
No, it also, so the first, the three S's of supplements are substitution for what's missing. Stimulation, this is where we use it a little bit more therapeutically. Like everyone knows, echinacea stimulates the immune system. Good thing to take when it's flu season, right? So you can, now along with zinc. So before I get on an airplane, I take zinc, because airplanes are full of people with snotty noses or something.
Yeah.
Like you just, so, and then the other one would be support. So there's the three S's of supplementation would be substitution, stimulation, and support. Just basic support for certain organs. Like, believe it or not, there are things that would support the sex organs. There are things that would support digestion or support the adrenals. I mean, everyone knows about adrenal support, glandulars and vitamin B's and these things. There's adaptogens, very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's actually a fourth S. It's called self-treatment, where you might do learn herbology, or just different substitutes for drugs, self-treatment. So there's actually four S's to supplementation. And what you see is that I'm organized. I have everything systematized. I've spent 20 years systematizing it. And that's about it.
And then as far as the last couple pieces here, so how do we cultivate that patience during this, when we find a healing opportunity? So during the healing process, and it's sort of people that are coming to me, either they're 28 or 38, everyone's in a panic because they're past when they want to be able to have their family. And so to take this time to concentrate on healing, we talked a little bit about it, but I guess cultivating that patience during this period.
Well, I love the word cultivate. You just said cultivate. So it reminds me of gardening, or planting. You plant in the spring to harvest in the fall. You don't plant, corn and expect corn in 2 weeks. You have to cultivate it. So great word, My dad used to say, because kids want everything now and stuff. He would say this when we were little, to my brothers and sisters. It's patience is a virtue. Possess it if you can. Often found in women, seldom found in man. So I just remember that from being a kid. Patience is a virtue, and we want to be virtuous. Health is being healthy requires virtue. Be modest in your intake of alcohol or something like that. I didn't say don't drink. I just said be sober. It's best to be sober most of the time. So the patience is actually a virtue, and it's part of personal development. And if you want to cultivate health, you got to plant the seeds. You got to pull out the weeds and water, right? And sunshine. So that takes time, and everyone's different. You just have to respect biochemical individuality, but understand patience isn't just waiting for something to happen. It's a virtue that when you possess it, you get to sort of make the observations in the meantime, and take this, like, again, the weeding, watering, and sunshine. That's where the rubber meets the road in a healing process.
Yeah, we say the fertility journey has a middle, like a beginning, middle, and an end. So there's
yep.
It is moving with a sense of urgency, but having a patience for the journey, which is something that could take time. And so you did share. Pardon?
Yes.
Oh yeah, and you did share a success story in the beginning. There's any other success story you'd like to share with someone getting pregnant? I guess.
Oh boy.
Probably have lots.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've had people. Most of it, the truth, it was accidental. So I've never claimed to be a fertility expert, but I'm an expert in functional lab testing and natural protocols. I'm an expert in that, and whatever that will treat, I guess that's a good thing. So I'm an expert in functional lab testing and natural protocols that work on every cell, tissue, and organ. That would include ovary cells, egg cells, sperm cells, and all these different things that are involved in fertility or infertility. And so I take that particular approach, and what has just really amazed me over the years is the people that had given up, that weren't even trying to get pregnant, kind of forgot that they can't have a baby, all of a sudden can. So the successes I've had, I can't even say they're always wanted. Like, I've actually, I guess you could say, been responsible in the part that I played for unwanted pregnancy. Now, that's not going to be any of your audience, but that's how much this stuff works. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not my, truly the symptom is not my concern. It's how healthy are you?
Mm-hmm.
It's and it just you have to really just trust that if it can happen, it's going to.
Mm-hmm. Love it. And you're offering the audience here a free dress guide. What can they expect in that?
Well, I just mentioned DRESS, diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation. I have a booklet that explains it and gets you thinking about it, gets you understanding, and it gets you organized. So, again, I when I left the environmental law, I was the senior vice president of a pretty big company. And I lost that job, and I went to work in a wellness center, and I became the general manager. We call it health director within a very short period of time, because I'm a good organizer. And, I tend to be to the thing. I only do what I believe in. And so people like to sort of follow along with that. And so what I could say is that, being a good organizer means I got a system. And if someone follows it, they're going to get help 100% of the time. Now, there's people with broken stuff that can never be fixed. Like if you're missing a gallbladder, it's not going to grow back. If you're missing your ovary, those aren't going to grow back either. But if they can be improved upon, I'd say 100% of the people we work with, we would make improvements.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when we don't offer any guarantees, we offer reasonable expectations. If someone guarantees something, I think they're selling me something. The only thing I guarantee is I'm here for the right reason. The only thing I guarantee. And if you follow my recommendation, if you let me, do my investigation and create something for you, and you follow it, I would say you'll have reasonable expectations too.
Amazing. So yeah, I'll have a link to the dress guide in the show notes. And thanks so much for coming on, Reed, and sharing your words of wisdom with us. It's been really informative, and I obviously love the approach and everything that you do. So thanks again.
Yeah, thanks. I hope people can just understand. It's about reality for me, and sometimes a dose of reality is just what people need. Mm-hmm. And if you're looking for a dose of reality, I get mine on a daily basis. Things just happen. But I love being on the same page. Creating that reality together about reasonable expectations and moving forward in the right direction. And I'm here to help, as you are, Sarah. So thanks so much for having me on, and I hope that your listeners got a little something out of it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Reed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Get Pregnant Naturally. Seriously, it means the world to me that you're here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can be notified of upcoming episodes. I'm excited to offer you a special gift. If you're a U.S. resident, text FERTILE to 345-345. You'll be prompted to enter your email address and you'll receive our Fertility Yoga download. In this 20-minute intro video, we focus on a calming and peaceful practice to connect back to your heart. These simple fertility yoga poses can help quiet negative thoughts and make you feel more in control. Download it now and get started today. So for US residents, text FERTILE, FERTILE, to 345-345. For non-US residents, go to www.yogafreebie.com to access your special gift. That's www.yogafreebie.com to access the free fertility yoga download. And I love this quote by Dr. Mark Hyman, Medical Director of the Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine and Chairman of the Institute for Functional Medicine. Functional medicine is medicine by cause, not by symptom. Functional medicine practitioners don't in fact treat disease. We treat your body's ecosystem. We get rid of the bad stuff, put in the good stuff, and because your body is an intelligent system, it does the rest. Thanks for listening. Until next time. Hey there, Sarah Clark here. So are you struggling to have your baby? First of all, please know that my heart goes out to you. I support couples worldwide who are struggling with infertility to conceive and have healthy babies. Women like Rita, who gave birth to her beautiful daughter after following my fertility coaching system. Or Danielle, who after 2 failed IUIs was able to get pregnant after a supercharged her fertility discovery call with me. So here's how you get my help for free. So I offer a free Supercharger Fertility Discovery Call. And on that call, I'll create a plan with you that is going to help you fast track your success. So this call is not for everyone. And I'm really picky about who I get to speak with. And I have a strict but totally reasonable criteria that needs to be met in order for us to move forward. So here's who I can help. So first of all, you need to be able to explore your infertility diagnosis in a new light. So this offers for people who are open-minded, they're coachable, and if you can do that and want to double or triple your chances at the fertility clinic or get pregnant, awesome. So let's get on the phone and chat. Also, you must be an action taker. So someone who's committed to seeing results, you're able to follow directions. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to do anything bizarre. But if you're one of those people who like to consume a ton of information, but don't like to spend time implementing and seeing results, then the call's not really for you. So I only want to spend time with people who are genuinely committed to their own success. So just click on the link in the show notes and apply, or go to fabfertile.com and click on the free consult. So it's a really short application that just tells me about your health, how long you've been trying to conceive, and how soon you'd like to be pregnant. So seriously, this is going to be the best time you've ever spent on your fertility. Looking forward to chatting. Talk soon.